Merhabalar. 24. Uçan Süpürge Kadın Filmleri Festivali bildiğiniz üzere devam ediyor. Bugün festival kapsamında Dana Keyder-Levin ve Lafer Levin'in Dört Anne adlı belgeseli üstünde konuşacağız. Dört Anne aslında İsrail'de 1997'de başlayan bir barış aktivizmi mücadelesinin hikayesi. Çocukları için İsrail'in Lübnan'dan barışçıl bir şekilde çekilmesini isteyen asker annelerinin başlattığı bir oluşum, bir barış aktivizmi hareketi. Bugün bizimle Dört Anne Lübnan'ı barışçıl bir biçimde terk et tam ismiyle. Hareketinin kurucusu ve başkanı, aynı zamanda belgeselimizin de ana kahramanlarından Doktor Rahel Ben-Dor var. Welcome, Dr. Ben-Dor. So thank you very much for being here with us. We really wish that we could welcome you in Ankara. But unfortunately, but still fortunately, we have these online tools. So thank you very much for joining us today.
I'm so thrilled when I heard that Turkey is calling. I said, yay, it's so unique and it's such a privilege to be. I not so often you get this opportunity. It's usually in the States or other European countries, but Turkey not so much. So I'm so happy to have this dialogue with you. So
we are too. We're really, really glad to watch the film, see your movement and the history of it, and actually learn from it also.
My book was published. Can we translate it to Turkish, maybe?
Yeah, we can try. Why not?
It would be cool.
Definitely, that will be.
Yeah.
So I do not want to ask direct questions about history of your movement and the history of foremothers leave Lebanon in peace, because I do believe that our audience watch the film and they learn and they see what happened throughout the years. And then what I want to ask you, firstly in the beginning, so have you ever thought that your movement for mothers leave Lebanon in peace would become a documentary like this? Because throughout the film we are not only seeing these contemporary images of you and your friends, but we are also seeing that you have lots of recordings from back then. So we are seeing that you're recording, there are recordings in your home, in the car, while you are doing these actions. So there is huge archive somehow. So
yeah.
Have you ever thought about it?
Yeah, and actually at my email, maybe I will share, if you go to my website, rachelbendor.com or formothersrachel.com. So there is a huge archive of unique documents from leaders and people from Israel and all around the world. We even met with the Clintons. So I am an academic and I document a lot. So, and I wrote so many letters and so many documents while we were protesting to our politicians and to the media. So I wrote a lot, and we have thousands and thousands of documents, which we use for the documentary. And also, as I mentioned before, I published a book these days that was published actually at the same time as the documentary. While I was writing, I was working with Dana and Raphael, brilliant filmmakers, about the documentary. We spent a lot of time together during 5 years. And I was finishing a chapter, sharing with them my challenges about writing and what to put in and how to put it. And we were actually sharing the same experience as creators, as writers of the documentary and writers of the documentary and writing the book. So it happens at the same time. And it was very interesting to create together with them. And every time they came to visit me at the place where the movement was established at my house around the kitchen table. So the table was full with documents and we were reading a lot. What was so unique about them and rare actually was the fact that they are very serious. They are very, they went into it all, they were all in and they were really interested in what happened. Usually I'm experiencing something more on the surface. People come, do something, they want to know only so much, and then they get the wrong concept about the movement. Because they were so thorough, the work was so serious, I enjoyed it so much and we became really good friends. We are still now. And this process of working together was very interesting. Then at the end, there was another editor. And this editor, I never met with her. She brought another perspective that was more of what was known on the media. You know, sometimes there is a gap between who you are and your perception on the media, it's a very interesting topic, actually, the way we presented ourselves and what's the image we wanted to convey. So they used other materials and other faces. And you have to remember, we were not four mothers. As I'm writing in the book, the number four, the symbolic number, four mothers, it's a biblical symbol. In Judaic literature, we talk about the four matriarchs, the four biblical mothers from Genesis, from the book of Genesis, which is Sarah, Abraham's wife, and then we have Rebecca, which is Isaac's wife, and then we have Leah and Rachel. Jacob's wife, the three fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the Bible, and then the four wives, the four mothers. And we looked at them as the mother of the nation. So actually we adopted this name that was given to us by the media. They identified us as mothers, and the reason why four to play on the biblical motherhood, mythological motherhood, especially Rachel in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible especially, she's a mythological mother that cried for her children to come back to their own border in the book of Jeremiah. And it started because I invited three friends to my house to meet with a correspondent that wrote the piece, a journalist that wrote the piece about our movement at the beginning, and he named us four mothers. And it just was catching up. People was very comfortable, identified us as mothers, but in fact, we were families of soldiers from the Galilee who suffered from the war in Lebanon, while their son was supposed to protect them from Lebanon. And we exposed this lie. We said, you send our husband and children to die in the war, and you tell us that this war protected us, but it's not true. It's, and many people were very fearful about that because they were convinced if the government is saying that, it must be true. And we had to convince the public and change public opinion. And we went from 20% supporting withdrawal from Lebanon to year 2000, it was almost 80% supported this idea of leaving Lebanon in peace. And while we were making this, and in the movement, we had a lot of very, very impressive people working together in the Galilee, which is not the center of Israel. It's not a big city. It's more like the countryside. And we know each other. It's almost like a community. And then this idea just caught up with the rest of the country. And it's been known as the most effective protest in Israel ever. This is how they describe us in the media. In the book and in the film, we are trying to show, especially in the book, of course, covers a lot more, how we did it and what were the challenges. One of them was the name mothers, because mothers are not supposed to be part of the political discussion, especially not when we talk about security issues. You're supposed to bear children and send them to war and then shut up. We were told that directly. Why are you whining? This is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sacrifice, like Sarah had to sacrifice Isaac. Like Hagar in the Quran had to sacrifice her son, Ishmael. So we have this mythologies that we were raised on, and we wanted to stop that.
I think it is pretty easy for especially this ruling men to say that you have to sacrifice your kid, but it is not happening like that. So in the film also, we see all the good and the bad reactions to your movement, like how these government officials are treating you, but at the same time, how your movement start to grow. And after the documentary release, and also you said your book released recently. So what kind of reactions you saw for the film, maybe the international audience, but particularly maybe the Israeli audience? So maybe even your like families, relatives. I was really wondering that, especially when seeing like briefly your son in the film, like how was it for him? How was it to have a mother like you? And maybe today, I'm sure it was like years ago, it was something different. And today it should be something different, both for Israeli society and for yourself and your family.
Actually, things doesn't change as much. We have a lot of protests in Israel, and I'm shocked, and I'm talking with the people who are protesting now, and it's so similar about so many levels. The hatred, toward women, especially the rejection is sexist. So they curse you as traitors and others, but also as prostitutes, as whores, as go back to the kitchen. So it's very sexist. And it's still like that. I guess it's a default, what people use. Now, I have to say that we have to remember that some men are like that. We cannot generalize, because our husbands, our families were not treating us like that. We were working as a family. My family were all in, my younger children, and my son that was a soldier in a commando unit in Lebanon. And when I asked him, why are you doing that? It says, it's my turn, it's my turn. I said, your turn what? Meaning to sacrifice his life to go to be drafted to the army. And I realized that we are growing in a society that actually educate us to do that. And we don't ask questions about it. We are just being drafted and we just do it because we are good citizens. And it's a democracy. So you don't take the law to your hand and you just go. But my son unit, commando unit, and my son was awarded in this war. But he was also a paramedic in this unit. I really want to point that out. When he grew up as a child, we did not allow him to use a weapon as toys or army toys. So it was peace and love. And all of a sudden, the age of 18, this guy that is a nature boy, what business do you have to, how come you're going to a war? How come you're going to kill people? I couldn't get it. I said, it was bad enough when his father had to do it. But I said, I'm not letting my son do it and anymore, our son do it. But I knew that if we are not going to stop it, our grandchildren would be in this war. And they are, I mean, they're always, and we are asking our leaders to stop it, but it looks like they are not interested in making any real effort. And every side blamed the other side forever. So my son was, it's very interesting actually. Not all soldiers were like that. But people like him who grew up in houses, and there are many of us. It's not in the Galilee community. There are agriculture communities, kibbutzim, and it's definitely education for coexistence and peace. We consider it to be the peace camp. And we raise our children like that. And we are not a minority. Definitely not. We are the silent majority that people are not doing enough. But so many people want this to stop, but they are not going out to the street and trying to force the government as we did. So my son came back from the war and was protesting with us. Can you believe it, how difficult it is for him? And he was a very good soldier, because I asked him that, why are you being awarded? What's going on? He said, because being a good soldier means that we are safe. I keep my life and my friend's life. And if we are being good soldiers, it's not necessarily that we are doing, okay, you know what, it's complicated. I don't want to go into that, but basically it was about these soldiers begging us to protest and said, take us out of there. And on the day when we left Lebanon in peace, kind of, maybe not so much peace, but we left. You have to see the videos of the soldiers. They are doing that, like this, yay, we got out of there. It's amazing. And they called me and said, we are so thankful and we so appreciate what you did for us, that you got us out of there. Everybody knew for many years that this war is useless. And now about the filmmaking. So we debated a lot between us on what I thought was the main issue of the movement and what can be shown, because when you have documents and ideas, and you don't have footage that was photographs, it's hard to use it for a documentary, unlike a book. By the way, my book now, I signed a contract about they are going to, based on my book, write a feature series. So it won't be a documentary. Yeah, I know. The Israeli television is going to do that these days now. And then they think about selling it abroad. So we'll see. I was pleasantly surprised about that. So they won't have a problem about not having enough photographs or videos. But we knew that there were certain issues that was very important, but they couldn't translate it to the documentary because you cannot just read documents. So they did the best they could with what they had.
So, because we go back to like filmmaking, so how was the shooting process for you? Let me ask, like, how was you like, collecting these documents with the directors and then like sitting there with all the lights and cameras and talk about this movement that you established from scratch, and then like actually it was successful because, as you said, somehow I think it was really nice that you said this silent majority. So you were trying to like take the silent majority from their houses and put onto the streets and make the change. Yes, like unfortunately, lots of people have already died, but somehow you were successful because you took those boys out of Lebanon. So and how was it? Like how was it to like narrate this once more?
And we have to remember the full equation. We took the soldiers out of a war, but also we protected ourselves in the Galilee in this process. So from the day we withdraw from Lebanon, on both sides, we have so much more peace and normal life than we used to have all these years. Then the armies was fighting each other. So both sides, the Lebanese suffered tremendously, and we suffered as well. Generation grew up in a bomb shelter. And since that, there was an incident in 2006, but other than that, it's relatively really nice here. It's peace again. And about the filmmaking, so it was, the process was first, of course, interviews before even taking out the cameras, just understanding the story. And then I felt that I need to expose them to the materials and for them to understand who we really were. And the documentary just showed one aspect. In the book and the series that are being now written about it, and which I hope they will do justice with the movement and our we were really are not fantasize some romantic motherhood typical approach, because it was not that. It was not the crying mother that wants her son back. We were sophisticated, we were educated about the issue, we were the resident of the North, we were determined. We had a political campaign here, not only protest. And we work, as I said, we met with the Clinton and we met with the Secretary of the United Nations, and we met with leaders from many European nations, but mainly we work within Israel to change public opinion. And how difficult is that? Especially when we talk with this silent majority, that people, you know, middle class that go to work, they have relatively comfortable and busy life. And they like to go to the theater and listen to concert and this and that. And how you take them out from their comfortable houses and TV shows, whatever they do, and trips around the world and go out and spend time on the street protesting against it. So we had to come up with ways to engage them. And I think we were very successful about it because it was family oriented. So every gathering we had, we were preparing. It was a lot of work and we didn't have money or budget or something. We did it all out of our pocket. We didn't have time to raise money. We were parents, we had jobs and life. And on top of that, I had to lead a movement. And so basically it was, most of our gathering was like family oriented for families and children, and people enjoyed almost coming to our events. And we became friends. But there were also problems within the movement that we were talking about what to bring into the documentary. Are we going to focus on the difficulties we have, like you have within any organization, when people with different opinions and different ways of protest coming into the organization? But we've decided just to take one road of the involvement of the movement and the end with the soldiers, just to bring these two sides. Unfortunately for me, I thought that there are a lot more impressive people, families, women around here that I wanted them to be in the documentary, that were very influential. And I think that especially bereaved mothers and parents. And I wanted to show different sides of the people that serve this protest. But for the documentary, the decision was just to take few people and to show them. And yeah, it was very interesting. I respected them tremendously. I told them, I respect every decision you make, because I knew how Dana and Raphael was considering everything I was telling them and thinking about it and making a choice. And I understood their artistic point of view, that sometimes I thought, look, this issue is critical to understand, but it didn't go through. And actually, 80% of what we were filming didn't go into the documentary.
Yeah, the editing.
Yeah, and we have a lot of really interesting issues that stayed out, that was left out. And I keep telling them, we can make another documentary from what we get, really on another topic. So yeah, maybe one day.
Why not? It is, I think it's really nice to speak with you, because generally we're like speaking with the directors, and when we're talking about documentaries like that, we're asking that kind of questions, like, how did you reach them? How did you like convince them? How did you work with them? But right now we have you, and we're listening this other perspective, like how did they reach out to you, and how was their work for you, and then like really how did they reach out to you? I think you're as far as I understand, you're pretty open with all these cultural productions, like anyone wants to do. So how did you like convince? I understand you were working like together very well, but
how did I trust them? How did I? Yeah.
You asked them.
No, how did I trust them?
Oh, you trust them. Okay.
How did I come to trust them? To put my life in their hands?
Yeah, like, would you like to like talk about it a little bit? Like, how did they really reach out to you? And as you said, like, how did you trust them to like open up yourself and all the documents and everything?
So we are doing this together. Unfortunately, they cannot today, but we are doing it together from different sessions for quite some time. And what Dana says that I was the first one she met, and we sat for many, many hours, and we were talking to each other, and she was mesmerized. She was really excited and moved about this conversation. This is what she's saying. And she's very young. She's not of our generation, and her husband, they work together. And they are actually our children age. So she was, first of all, surprised that nobody did this documentary before. But I told them that there are many people try to do it. And actually, some of them are really big in the industry, but they end up, you know, a lot of production not end up in a documentary. And I didn't think about it because for me, it was not something important. I knew that I need to tell my story from my perspective about this movement, that the media perception is so superficial. And I was really afraid when I met with her because I knew how the media works, that I'm pouring my heart and soul and telling her a lot about myself, but I felt that I'm on a mission. I need to talk about this protest and to get more people on board. And therefore I need to expose these stories. But I didn't trust them in the beginning. I said, oh my God, what they are going to do with this story, because I saw it twisted so many times. And my husband said, I'm really afraid of you going into another session because I know how you can be upset about it when you see how they take it to a place that missed the whole point. It's not about even being accurate. It's about, there is a special event here, and a special movement that was successful. Don't you want to really know what happened? Why do you always go to the Cinderella story, to the weeping mothers and women that are worried? And no, we are. I'm worried and I'm crying and I'm doing all of that, but I'm also doing other things. So showing women in a certain perspective, only as mothers, which I'm very proud of, is in a certain motherhood, missing the point. And not telling how this protest was so successful and actually end up with taking the soldiers out of a foreign country and bringing them back to their border, as the Bible says, and also bringing us peace and quiet. So I was afraid. I didn't trust them in the beginning. And in the end, we spent so much time together. And I think we thought alike. We saw our values, our understanding of politics, the way our point of view about the world and life. So it was very, we were looking at things in a similar way, I guess. And therefore, there was a lot of chemistry between us, and I started to trust them more and more and more. And even when I thought that I'm right, I said, listen, I'm telling you what I think, but the end is your decision, and I will support your decision, whatever it will be, even when I didn't agree with that. I trusted them so much that I gave them a lot of my tens and tens of my hours, hundreds of hours of my home videos, which I don't even remember what I photographed there. I said, I hope there are no embarrassing things there. I just take everything. So they came to my house and I told them, here it is, just go to the closet and take everything you want. All my album, all my pictures, everything. They end up not using most of it, of course, but they could understand. And then I was happy and I trusted them. They understood who we were, and then they made a choice. I was not happy with part of their choices, but this is their artistic freedom and I respected that. I don't respect, and I get really upset when people are just coming, check, we did it. So much nonsense and so many things that was disgraceful was done about the movement because they didn't look at any materials. They just wrote what they Googled.
Yeah.
And we have a huge archive. Don't you want to see a document? I took it, I interpreted it in a way, I don't know if I'm right, but this was my interpretation. It's a women's movement. They don't think and they don't give us the credit that we have a very thorough and huge archive. We had a very interesting organization, and it was spread in a very impressive way. Don't you want to really understand this organization? No, doesn't matter. Just take from the media pieces and put them together. And sometimes in the media, they show things that actually even didn't happen or was very minor. And boom, it's a story that didn't happen.
Yeah, I think throughout the film, as you said, it was really nice that after speaking with you like that, I think we were seeing this moment, not only, as you said, the crying mothers, but yes, these are families that want their kids back. And this is this basic human right, I think. But on the other hand, we were seeing that it's a women's movement and it's a peace movement. It's a direct peace activism. We were seeing that, and it was, I think, really inspiring. And somehow, and I don't think that it's not only for Israel and Israeli society, but in general, in Middle East, in the whole world, because we need this kind of movements to teach us.
And by the way, a movement that was led by women and many army generals that after they finished their service joined us, and many men, which I was very proud about, these people who joined us, retiring from the army and joining a movement by the name of Four Mothers, led by women. Interesting.
Amazing.
Good for you, for us, good for them. I just want to emphasize one point. In Israel, and I guess all around the world, every parent wants their children back home. But saying that in Israel was not the right image that we wanted to convey, to share, because it's considered to be very selfish. You don't want to sacrifice your son in a war. It's very selfish. My son is a commando, awarded soldier in a commando unit. But what are you using him for? And it was not only bring the troops back to protect Israel from their border. Yes, we need an army. We need an army to protect us. The name of the army, IDF, Israel Defense Forces. So you need to defend us, not send our troops to unnecessary wars. And how do we know that it's unnecessary? Because while they were in Lebanon, we were bombed and we were terrorized by a war here, and the Lebanese as well. And the moment they came back to the border to protect us from the border, it stopped. So it was not only bringing the troops back home, because we are mothers, also understanding that this caused here more chaos. So we had to combine the two. So this was the equation that we sold to the public. It's one thing, war is never a solution. This is the slogan of a peace camp. But a war that caused more chaos to us, like we had now in this round. So what's the idea? And yeah, and it's all about solving the Palestinian problem, because also in Lebanon it started with the Palestinian conflict. And it's about time that the leaders from both sides will find, after so many years, a way to coexist here. But they are not capable of doing it. And they're sending us to a war after war to kill each other and develop hatreds. And instead of coexisting and helping people to live around, to share the differences and coexist, It's the opposite. People who are being elected to the parliament, some of them are going in with an intention to cause more animosity, more chaos. And it's a shame. And then here we are, endless wars.
Yeah, I think for really ultimate peace and this coexistence, we have to like struggle till the end. And as you did before, let me tell you, thank you very much for this interview and for the film and all the work that you did and you're doing. And I really, really hope we can like read your book, maybe in Turkish in the future. Also,
or in English. We're translating the book to English. But now we have Google Translate. Take the book in Hebrew and just put it on Google Translate.
No, you're definitely right. We have to like search this new methods, and maybe we would have chance to see also this series that you're talking about. So thank you very much. Thank you very much again and again. And well, let's say see you.